Okay, chapter 23 of the book of Genesis. So moving on here, talking about the life of Abraham. We're getting to a point where Abraham and Sarah are getting pretty old. They have those promised blessings given to them, but now it's starting to move to the next generations as we move forward here. So Sarah dies, is buried in the cave of Machpelah, which Abraham buys from Ephron the Hittite. Verse 1, and Sarah was 107 and 20 years old. These were the years of the life of Sarah. Sarah died in Kirjath Arba, which is in the Bible dictionary, the same as Hebron, that's in the Bible dictionary too, in the land of Canaan. And Abraham came to mourn for Sarah and to weep for her. And Abraham stood up from before his dead and spake unto the sons of Heth, which is in the Bible dictionary, saying, I am a stranger and a sojourner with you. Give me a possession of a burying place with you, that I may bury my dead out of my sight. And the children of Heth answered Abraham, saying unto him, Hear us, my lord, thou art a mighty prince among us. In the choice of our sepulchres bury the dead. None of us shall withhold from thee his sepulchre, but that thou mayest bury thy dead. So he's not in his hometown area, basically, and Sarah passes away. She probably got sick, passed away. I mean, they're probably 115-ish, 120 years old. Abraham and Sarah, they're pretty up there. She passes away, so he says, I want to bury her while we're here. And these people, of course, say, Thou art a mighty prince among us. They know Abraham is a mighty guy, powerful, the Lord is with him. They've probably heard the stories of things that he's done, things that have happened, the angel visits and stuff. And so they're like, you take your pick, you do what you want. So they pick a sepulcher. Sepulcher is like a cave that they went in and they made, whether it was a naturally made cave or they cut into the rock to make these places of burial. So this is where she was buried. Abraham, verse 7, Abraham stood up and bowed himself to the people of the land, even to the children of Heth. And he communed with them, saying, If it be your mind that I should bury my dead out of my sight, hear me and entreat for me to Ephron the son of Zohar. Verse 9, that he may give me the cave of Machpelah, which he hath, which is in the end of his field, for as much money as it is worth, he shall give it me for possession of a burying place amongst you. So he's saying, here's where I'd like to go to bury him, and I'll buy it. We'll get this all taken care of. Verse 10, so now he's talking to Ephron, the son of Zohar. In verse 10, and Ephron dwelt among the children of Heth, and Ephraim the Hittite answered Abraham in the audience of the children of Heth, even of all that went at the gate of his city, saying, Nay, my lord, hear me. The field give I thee, and the cave that is therein I give it thee. In the presence of the sons of my people give it I thee, bury thy dead. And Abraham bowed down himself before the people of the land. So what's happening here, verse 10, is Abraham and Ephron are bargaining over this. Abraham's like, I would like it, and I'm going to pay you for it. We'll get it taken care of. And Ephron says, basically, it's just a polite gesture to the customers, like, don't worry about it. We'll get this taken care of. And so they settled. They got it taken care of, basically. And he spake unto him, this is verse 13, and he spake unto Ephron in the audience of the people of the land, saying, But if thou wilt give it, I pray thee, hear me. I will give thee money for the field. Take it of me, and I will bury my dead there. And Ephron answered Abraham, saying unto him, My lord, hearken unto me. The land is worth 400 shekels of silver. What is that betwixt me and thee? Bury therefore thy dead. And Abraham hearkened unto Ephron, and Abraham weighed to Ephron the silver, which he had named in the audience of the sons of Heth, 400 shekels of silver, current money with the merchant. So this was done in public. People saw this. There was witnesses of this. They did the transaction. It was all done according to the laws and customs of how they did things back then, basically. And the field of Ephron, which was in Machpelah, which was before Mamre, the field, and the cave which was therein, and all the trees that were in the field and were in all the borders round about, were made sure unto Abraham for a possession in the presence of the children of Heth, before all that went in at the gate of his city. And after this, Abraham buried Sarah his wife in the cave of the field of Machpelah, before Mamre, the same as Hebron in the land of Canaan. And the field and the cave that is therein were made sure unto Abraham for a possession of a burying place by the sons of Heth. Now, this might sound kind of a strange chapter. It's a short one, a lot of stuff in the Bible dictionary. Uh, Something that's important to look at too is there's a field and a cave. Now, in order for a cave to be there, you don't have a cave necessarily in a field. That's would be a hole in the ground. But you have the field is not flat. The field has rolling hills. So then you get a cave in the side of the hill. So we have some interesting insight on this ourselves because one of the archaeological digs that happened way back in the 1800s was they discovered a cave full of hundreds of bodies. Most were on the ground, most were not well kept. The mummies, so they're buried in an Egyptian style mummies. Most of them were pretty decomposed. Some though were on top of tables, stone tables, or little beds etched into the wall. These parts where they cut into the wall and then laid like a little bed in there. Those ones were more well preserved. And this archaeological research, this guy that found this with his team was pretty amazed at what they found. And those were the mummies that were sent back to England for study. Those were some of the mummies that two of those mummies made it to America. And Joseph Smith was told about them, and they visited with them, and he says that this is the body of Father Abraham, and he had these writings, the Book of the Dead, which was very common to have with all the mummies and things, and then we get the Book of Abraham from that. So this is what this chapter is talking about, is the burying place. And so they have found it, they have opened it, according to Joseph, they had the body of Abraham. We don't know where all that stuff went to. After Joseph's death, it kind of gets muddy as to what happens. I know there was the ownership of the manuscripts, the Egyptian manuscripts and things that they had went to Joseph's wife. But some of them got sold off to other people who put them on display in the World's Fair in Chicago, which burnt down that year. That's probably where the mummies were on display. And then the cow tipped over the lantern in the barn, caught the barn on fire, and that barn fire spread to the fields, which then spread to the World's Fair and burned the place to the ground, and a lot of that stuff was destroyed. Crazy time, fun, wild history that Chicago fire was. But some of them were sold off to people or given to people. On Joseph's wife, when she remarried after Joseph's death, her husband kind of gave some of that stuff away and things. So we don't know, but just kind of realize that kind of ties what we just read to some more modern day stuff. So some fun things to read, and we look forward to seeing you next chapter.